Alright, so this is going to be a video similar to what I did in 2024, so last season, and this is going to be going over my bike for the RTTC National Time Trial Championships, which are two of my major events, two of my major goals for the year, the 10 and 25 mile National Championships. Now last year, going into the 25, that was going to be my first national championships, and then 4 weeks after that I had the national 10. This season it's a bit different because obviously I've had last season's experience under the belt of competing in the national championships, and additionally I've already competed in a couple of RTTC national championships this year. So I already did the closed circuit champs, national 50, national 100, and then not a CTT event, but I also did the British Cycling National Time Trial Championships, which was a big goal at the start of the season, built up to this peak week that I had, which was the British Cycling National Time Trial Championships on Thursday the 26th of June, and then on the Sunday the 29th was the National 50 Mile Championship. So I kind of built form towards that, and then the week after that I took that as a mid-season break, so took some time off and then reset, and then building up again to hopefully be in really good form for the national 25 and the national 10, which will be some very competitive events. I mean, so we're just under 2 weeks away from the national 25, so the start sheet's already out for that, and other than John Archibald not being there, it's an extremely stacked field. Like most of the top domestic riders in the country are going to be there, so yeah, should be a really exciting event. This is my bike from last year, the trusty Cervelo P3, but this year I've been lucky enough to be riding for Team Bottrell, and Matt's got me on the new 2025 Giant Trinity, which is obviously a bike that the World Tour pros at Jayco and such are riding. So it's the old Trinity was known as a very fast TT bike. I mean, within the British time trialing scene, I mean, people were riding like a certain few frames. Like you'd see a lot of Cervelos, a lot of Trinities, a little bit less Treks, but it's kind of understood like these are the fast frames. So the old Trinity was widely considered as a very good TT bike, and that's why it stuck around in the pro peloton so long. It's like the longest lasting rim brake bike. So the fact that they've developed the disc brake Trinity, it's like they know it's going to be faster, and like all the tube sections are so deep. I mean, you look at the fork, how deep that is. This head tube area, I mean, it's a quick bike, I'll tell you that. It's SRAM Red wireless group set, so I've just got the blips on the shifters, and also in the base bar I've got some blips to go up and down the gears, then tram brakes, there's these Leap special grips that Matt put on there. It's a 62 tooth 1x, and then in the rear it's a 1028 cassette. The idea with the big front chain ring is that you stay in the middle of the block and want to have that good chain line. So not going to be going 100 mile an hour in the 6210. The wheel set, it's the Cadex 4-spoke and disc wheel, drag to 0 0.55 extensions, which are a kind of an unreleased extension. Probably I think they're a prototype. So if you go to the Drag to Zero website, you can see the 0.44, and then the more advanced, the 0.66. So the 0.55 doesn't exist, but that's the extension Matt's got for me on the bike, with a custom 3D printed Wahoo mount. So I plop the Wahoo in, and then I kind of lock it into place. Ceramic Speed OSPW, the special fairing. So yeah, just a bit of bling, and then something I was experimenting with at the end of before I got on this bike was trying to work out how to make a TT bike in general more comfortable for me, and I realised that I wanted to have a wide saddle that allowed me to get further forward while being planted on the sit bone, so minimise the risk of saddle sores and be more comfortable in the saddle. And it's all to do with remaining planted on your sit bones, and because of how most saddles are, they taper outwards, so you can, so long as your sit bones are pretty normal size. So for me, my sit bones are 11 centimeters apart, which is pretty normal. So long as there's enough tape, so long as I have a saddle that's the widest point is more than 11 centimeters, I can be comfortable on that saddle. I just need to shift myself far enough back or forward so that I'm planted on my sit bones. But the idea with the wide saddle is that 11 centimeter point for me is further forward, so that you can sit further forward in the saddle, which is kind of where you want to be on the time trial bike. Like, you really want to be over the bottom bracket. I mean, it's a trend that everyone's been moving towards, but definitely found that for me. And it's like, if you can only slam your saddle so far forward, and I was also thinking about UCI regulations, which I'll get into. There's a limit to how far the saddle can be forward. So if your saddle itself can allow you to be further forward, the saddle can be further back, but then you're just as far forward compared to just slamming the saddle forward. Basically I'd want to stay with the wider saddle in the Citero in the 155. So like the widest one they have has been working pretty well for me. There might be the case that I'd get along with a better with a different saddle. So potentially try an ISM PS, which is the short ISM. That's a saddle that I'd like to try out maybe, but doing well with the Citero, and I think it's only really the really long stuff where I'm still having to shuffle around, which it's maybe it being wider at the back is causing some saddle sores. But for a 10 and a 25, which are the events that I've got for the rest of the season, like, I'm absolutely fine and bombing with the Citero. Speedplay aero pedals and cleats. This is also something I experimented with at the end of last year. So moved across from the look system to the speed plays, and learned how to set up the cleats. Now, the way I've actually got my cleats set up is I've got them slammed as far backwards towards the heel as possible. So when you're clipped in, your toes further forward. Reduce the Q factor when I'm clipped in. So to do that, you kind of move the cleat towards the outside of the shoe. So then when you're clipped in, your shoe is closer to the crank arm. So I've got lowest Q factor possible, as far forward as possible, and I've also moved to a neutral cleat position, so my knee is tracking over my toe and in the same as the direction of travel. Now this that might seem very, very normal to some of you, but for me it wasn't when I first started cycling. When I started cycling, it was because of my weightlifting background and how I'd squat with my toes pointed outwards for better glute engagement during my squat. I thought, okay, it's going to be the same on the bike. So how I'd set up my cleats was that my heels would be tilted inwards. So what I'd do is I'd kind of move to the widest Q factor possible, but then rotate the cleats so that my toes were pointing out slightly and my heels were pointing inwards. So I'd brush up against the chainstay, but then because I've gone to the wider Q factor, my toes can be pointing out. I kind of cringe when I see Felix Gall climbing now, because his knees are just super wide out. But it's basically the same thing that I was doing, but to a lesser degree. And it was only after I did some aero testing for Body Rocket and Uno X, I was chatting with Barney Wainwright, who organised it, and I was explaining my theory behind the cleat position, and he didn't explicitly say, oh, no, that's wrong, mate, but he got me thinking that, okay, maybe I could try a neutral cleat position and see if it works out for me. And I tried it out when I moved across to the speed plays, and I'm like, this feels absolutely fine, and I've stuck with it ever since. So now I've had like 9 odd months of neutral cleat position and getting used to it, and it's going to be more aero, because if your knees are flared out even a small degree, like, it's going to be more surface area compared to if your knees are tracking perfectly over your toes. On the wheels, we've got Conti GP5K TT tubeless ready, and they're in the 25mm. I don't have calipers, but they look like they're measuring about 29 at the widest point, and they're set up tubeless with some Silka sealant. As for my kit, also riding for Bottrell, I've got some really nice kit this year. So a skin suit that actually fits me, and doesn't have a bunch of ripples on it. I was definitely giving up a few watts at during my TTs last year and that. Full no pins get up. So it's hypersonic skin suit and base layer. I didn't wear the base layer for the National 100, which is where this photo is from, but for every other event, including the 50, which was National 50, which was pretty warm, I've been wearing the base layer. And power's not the issue for me. Aero definitely is. So yeah, I'm gonna so long as unless it's a really long event where I'm going to overheat, like, I'll go with the base layer and save those couple of watts. I've just got the UCI overshoes, so the ones where they only go part way up your calf. When I did the BC champs, they do bring out this little metal jig to check that your sock height's not too high. Most people wear the really long socks or calf sleeves combined with overshoes for CTT events. But I've just been running the UCI shoes, and it wasn't the best testing, and I'd like to repeat it. But I did do some testing with some calf guards that I had. And they actually tested slower compared to no calf guards, which I found really interesting because that's kind of counter to what applies for most people. I actually chatted to Kasper Folsak, who worked with Dan Bigham at the Denmark track team suit team after the National 100, and I brought this up to him, and he was like, he was still thinking that the result might be completely wrong. But there's also the possibility that it could be right, and it's the fact that I do have quite big calves, and because of the size of the calves, something to do with Reynolds numbers. Don't at me. I'm not smart enough to properly understand this. But because the surface is actually bigger, you don't have as much of an issue getting that separation of the air, so you don't need to trip the boundary layer, which is the purpose of having the surface with the funky lines to trip around a surface. So that's why we don't have the trips running down the legs on the skin suit, because that surface is so much bigger. The air doesn't need to be tripped, whereas a skinnier, thinner surface like the arm, like the calf, that requires the tripping. He was suggesting maybe like a smoother surface. So I might experiment with some other calf guards later in the year, but for the moment I'm absolutely fine with the UCI ones. But yeah, interesting stuff, and I'd like to repeat that testing and seeing if it was a fluke result or not. Also got the no pin speed bands. I got them last year for the nationals. I also wear a buff typically, and ankle socks. The socks being non-important, with me wearing the overshoes as the high socks. Like I just wear ankle socks. But I need to make sure I wear some thicker ones because I've got some hot spots on my feet after the National 100, and I think that's because my socks were too thin. It's like I'm talking about tyres. His socks were too thin, and he punctured his feet. I didn't puncture anything, but the hot spots on my feet meant I could like barely walk afterwards. And I also normally wear a headband, just like a buff, as a headband over the top of my hair. Keeps the sweat out of my eyes. I haven't really had an issue with that, but I mainly started doing that because some of the padding on my old helmet, which is the Met Drone, that was going. So I needed something softer to rest against my head, because otherwise it was getting uncomfortable. But now that I'm on a new helmet and the padding's completely new, I can probably get away with not wearing the buff, but I'll see what I'm feeling like on a week on Sunday. I am now running this Rudy helmet. I did a little bit of aero testing and found that it was faster than my old Met Drone. Now again, this testing wasn't amazing, but it gave me some conclusive result that it looks like the Rudy's faster. So I was doing an out and back route of a 10-miler course, and it was quite busy on the day, so traffic conditions would have been variable. But in one direction, it was a wash between the two. But then in the other direction, both runs with the Rudy were faster, both runs with the Met were slower. So if anything, I don't think there might not be much in it, but I couldn't speculate too much about it, but I reckon it's a faster helmet for me. Plus, because it doesn't have such a long tail of the helmet, if your position does fatigue, then it's probably going to be better compared to the Met, which is a long tail of the helmet. But the Met's been doing good for me. Helped me get third at the National 50 this year, and the National 10 last year. But a couple of days ago, got some Giro Empires second hand, which are known as a very fast shoe. Laces act as a trip essentially, and have found to be very aero. So I've moved across my speed plays cleats to there, and they're feeling good. I've done a couple of rides on them, and the stiffer sole, and they're just feeling nice. Can't complain. I've also got these custom molded insoles that Matt made me when I went to see him earlier on in the year, and I've just moved them across from my old shoes to the Giros. As for tech, sticking with my Wahoo Element Bolt, Kuswu heart rate monitor, which I've had for quite a long time now. That's just like a cheap Amazon one that's done pretty well. Also, the old core sensor, I know they've updated it. I don't look into the data from that too much because it hasn't been the most reliable, to be honest. But I always wear it for a TT, and I might see afterwards, oh, I hit 39.5 degrees C. Whatever, like it's not correlated with anything. I'm not looking at that during the event because it's not useful data to me, to be honest. But it's interesting to see afterwards. What I am looking at during the event is my power meter. So I'm on the cork this year. Was on a single-sided, left-sided 4 eyes last year. And what I found is, which is something I'd been suspecting for over a year, well over a year at this point, based on the discrepancy between left-sided, single-sided power meters and my kicker core, is that my left side is potentially weaker. And now that I've got the cork, and it's not a true left-right balance, but it gives an estimate for left-right balance, and it typically shows that my left side is weaker, and the power values that I'm getting now are much, much higher, which makes sense if my right leg's stronger. So power last year was kind of sandbagged probably, and I'm going to assume the cork is accurate, and doing work to try and strengthen my left leg to hopefully bring that power balance into alignment. Mentioned bike geometry, a little bit about saddle setback. So the main thing for UCI sanctioned events, so this British Cycling National Time Trial Champs I did not even a month ago actually, about a month ago. The main thing you have to look for is saddle setback. So if you have the tip of your saddle 5 centimeters behind the center of the bottom bracket, it opens up some range at the front, so you can have a longer set of extensions. Whereas for CTT events, you don't need the saddle to be 5 centimeters behind the bottom bracket, which for most saddles is ridiculous. It's really far. I've got a super wide saddle and it still feels extreme, quite extreme having it that far back. Maybe with an ISM, I could have it 5 centimeters behind the bottom bracket and I'd be like, yeah, that's perfect. But yeah, since doing that event, I've moved my saddle forward, so it's about 3 centimeters behind the bottom bracket. For the UCI event, I went to the doctors to get officially measured, and so I am actually on the list as a Cat 2 height rider, which when I'm 5 centimeters behind the bottom bracket, it does open up some range at the front, So yeah, the 3 measurements you're looking for are extension reach, length and height. So I've been going shorter and shorter on the reach really, so it's like 2.5 centimeters shorter than last year, and it's well within the range of when you're 5 centimeters behind the bottom bracket. But if I did decide if I was able to bring my the length of the extensions 3 centimeters shorter, then I could have my saddle less than 5 centimeters behind the bottom bracket, because so the limit is 830 when you're 5 behind the bottom bracket, but if you're 0 to 5 behind the bottom bracket, then it moves to 750, which I don't think I could do because I'm already like, my knees are almost clipping my elbows already. So if I went even shorter, I'd have to do some funky things with my hands to stop that from happening. But yeah, something to think about. I'm thinking about doing track riding in the winter, so I have to play by the UCI rules for that. Extension length, again, that's fine, and if I went 3 centimeters shorter, it would still be within the range of greater than 18 centimeters. And extension height is kind of bang on. It changed around the setup a little bit since the event, but I think it's around 12 centimeters still. With the Giro Empires, the lowest stack height, I did decide to, a couple of days ago, move my saddle down by a centimeter, remove a centimeter spacers from the extensions at the front, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think I want to mess. There's not really anything I'm thinking I'd want to change with the bike now. Like, I've got the extensions shorter, lower, my saddle's shorter, lower, my saddle's further forward, and yeah, I'm really liking how it looks. So I think I'm probably going to be sticking with this setup for the rest of the year. Saddle to arm pad drop, so like the height of the saddle to the center of the arm pad cups is about 10 centimeters. If that means anything to you. Now onto the courses. So like I said, this is for the 25 and the 10, which I'm focused on, and they're both interesting courses. So The 25, it's pretty flat. It's obviously going to have some rolling sections, but just parallel to the A1M. But the main contention is the fact that there's 20 roundabouts, which is a hell of a lot. This is a course. It's essentially like 2.5 laps. So we start in the middle and then we end at the bottom. So we're going down, all the way up, down, all the way up, down, and then finish. And the roundabouts are all situated in this bottom. Most of the round. So there's the turnaround here, the turnaround here, and then the roundabouts. There's 3 consecutive roundabouts that we're going through before this turnaround, and with it being 2.5 laps, we have to pass through this section of roundabouts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have to go through these 4 roundabouts 5 times. It's a bit of a weird one because I don't know if they'll release. I'm sure they'll send us the handbook soon, and I don't know if they'll have marshals on all the roundabouts just waving you through so that you can stay in the extensions. But I looked at the Strava file from the current course record holder. Well, course record holder of the original version of the course. They did change the course a couple of weeks ago. It originally started further. There's a bit of an uphill here, and it originally started going down the hill. But there looked like a bit of a weird section where some people would be doing a U-turn and some people would be going straight on, which we don't have on this version of the course because the only difference is when you exit the course here and then you're just taking the first exit, so there wouldn't be riders running counterflow, and even if there were, like, it's the same with traffic, like you just have to wait. But they've moved it to a course. They've changed around the course a little bit and added even more roundabouts. So it's going to be the Roundabout World Championships. But yeah, I looked at the data file from the guy who's got the course record on Strava from the old map, from the old course. And this is the file. So this is for the roundabout section. So from here down and back up to here, so he still maintained good speed. Like, so it was 7 minutes, 5 and a bit kilometers, 45k an hour. But you're just seeing the spikiness that he's having to sprint out of most of these roundabouts. So yeah, I mean, we're all in the same boat, but I imagine they're waving people through the roundabout. But I'm probably going to get into the base bars approaching each roundabout, because like, if you need to come to a stop, you need to have access to your brakes. But yeah, we'll see how it is. Like I say, they're all grouped together in this section where we have to navigate 7 roundabouts. Very fun times. And then 4 weeks later is the National 10, which is in Cornwall, and that's interesting because it's a simple out and back, but it's on a extremely hilly course, which looks very interesting. So it's definitely not going to be a fast one. So I've modelled the course. So you're seeing, so it's literally up and down all day. It's a short section uphill, short section down, longer section downhill, short uphill, short downhill, short uphill, long downhill, long uphill. It's like up and down and up and down. So yeah, the guys if you've been working on your over-unders, you're going to do well at that. And it's like thinking about how long it will probably take me to do these sections. It's like I'm going to be needing to do some big digs. So like 2 by 1 minutes are around 600 watts, I reckon. And then there's a 5 and 3 minute uphill section. So that would be the 3.4k at 2.2% and the 2.1k at 2.3%, maybe 5 and 3 minutes. But you're going to be having to go into like well over 10 normal 10 miler pace. So I'm looking, by the end of the year, I'm thinking I should be in the range of, for a flat 10 miler, I should be able to do like 440 to 450 watts. So I need to be going well over that for the uphill sections to get the best time possible. So that's going to be an interesting course as well. So you look at the elevation profile on the CTT, it's like, and this is like a smoothed profile as well. Like, you just see it's up and down all day. So it's going to be a very interesting one. But yeah, looking forward to it as well, because at least I got the power. Not punished for my lack of it. Even though I'm heavier, it's like not going to be punished for my worse aero. Really looking forward to the both of them. So we'll see how it goes.